Hello and welcome to the Bookering Pod. What is a pod? What is
it?
Podcast? Is it two friends on Zoom recording their Zoom call? Yeah.
I think that's what a podcast is. I think that's the official definition, actually.
Guys, we're coming to you with video, optionally, because you could still be listening to this on your favorite podcast app, but you could also be watching it on YouTube. And
wow.
So
many options.
So this is great news for our listeners because now there will be visual gags that you will not understand because we will assume you're seeing us too. So that's great. But yes, let us know if you like it or not.
Yeah, give us feedback, but don't be mean, please.
Don't be mean. Pressure for us to look presentable and to have clean backgrounds, which is something that I worked on for 20 minutes. So, Tawny, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
It's we've been saying spooky season. Tomorrow's the day. Today's October 30th.
And so it's basically Halloween now because it's October 3rd. I feel like it counts.
I feel like Halloween has passed because I had my Halloween party last night. I've transitioned to Christmas. After this, it's over. It's over after this. After this night. But yes, because these are not necessarily normal podcasting outfits for us.
No.
Spoiler alert. Tawny, what happened this morning at 10:30 a.m.?
So I received a text from Katie at so it was 9:30 a.m. my time, and it was just like, hey, requirement for tonight, you need a bookish costume. And I was like, no, please no. I don't want it. And then she convinced me that, that's actually the story of how this podcast came to be. So this is this is how it works. And so now we're both in bookish costume. It's thrilling. It's thrilling.
At this point, I would have had us do a guessing game of who each other is, but we already did that pre-recording. Tawny, please talk about your costume.
Okay.
Please show it up.
Yes, great. So I am flowers. I am sun. I am two people. And what is glittering? I am the meadow from Twilight.
Like impeccable, amazing.
I did crochet this sun today after devising this idea in the span of
I cannot with you because in response to my text, you're like, neither do I own things, nor am I creative. And then you're the meadow from Twilight. Like, come on, it's so good.
I don't know if it's not. I wanted to wear this dress, and there were just limited options of what I could become in this dress, and this is what happened. This is what happened. Katie, what are you? What inspired this whole endeavor?
So, this was part of my original Halloween costume, but then I got a different one in the mail. Had to switch last minute, but still wanted to wear this. Changed it a little bit because what is more appropriate than to celebrate apparently the movie of the year? But I am Spice from Arrakis. Spice.
She's Spice.
Spice. And it's extra appropriate because what do we love here in our books? Spice.
It is what we love.
Listen, I am everyone's favorite hallucinogenic drug / vehicle transportation fuel. So that's my health.
We're killing it. We are killing it over here on Bookering.
Yes. So yes, or is this a pumpkin spice costume? But no, just Spice.
No, it is just Spice.
Just Spice.
And super appropriate.
Yeah, super appropriate. So I'm gonna get rid of the worm friend now. Okay, goodbye, worm friend. Amazing.
R.I.P.
Wow, what an intro. Full of stunning visual elements.
So sorry to the people who are listening only. I hope we apologize.
Okay. Tawny, how was your October reading wise?
It was good. It was good. So weirdly, I read 13 books. which is good. That's like about average for me.
Yeah.
But weirdly, after coming home from Arizona, I simply was unable to pick up any books and stick with them. I don't know what is going on with me, so that it's been a struggle the last like week or so since I've been home to find a thing to read. But that's fine because I still finished 13.
So for those who are curious, Tawny and I were just together on like a weird quasi work from home vacation. And similar to Tawny, I you know what? Actually, I'm confident that 95% of the books that I read this month I read in Arizona and not here. So I think I completed 2 books in Philadelphia and like 6 books in Arizona, and we were in Arizona for a week.
1 week.
So it's really
casual.
Just casual, just normal. Wow, incredible. So how about I get started? Because like we're on theme. It's October, it's spooky season. The first book I want to talk about today is The Ex Hex by Erin Starling. I actually have it below right here in my pile of books. Wow. And if you are interact with book content on social media at all, you have gotten probably 5 million ads for this book, because this was like the marketed book. I saw ads for this book all the time. It's such a pretty cover, very like a hocus pocus rom-com vibes, adorable. It was a book of the month book. Everyone had to read it. So the story is about a small witchy vibed Georgia town that was founded by witches, and it hosts a witch college within a normal private college. And it's the story of a blended family of witches with the main character's name is Vivian Jones, and her cousin and her aunt. When she was 18 or so, she and the hot rich witch boy Reese Penhallow, who's a descendant of the town's witchy ancestors, had like a summer romance, and it ended when he informed her that he was betrothed. So obviously Vivian was super upset and got drunk and cast a silly curse on him. Luckily though, it wasn't a real curse. Or was it? It is called The Ex Hex, the title of the book. So it's 9 years later, and the ex is back to perform a regular ritual the family has to perform. And it turns out he is actually cursed. Crazy. And that's not good, because his curse spreads to the rest of the town. And she and Reese have to stop the curse and deal with their attraction. This was a very meh experience for me. I felt like there weren't stakes, like romance-wise or plot-wise. Everything could have been more dramatized to make me feel something more, but it was just so quickly fixed. I was like, I didn't have time to feel worried for the characters at all. The beginning was like really, really longly drawn out and full of world building that was like fine, but ultimately not that interesting or relevant to the plot. The romance was also like just okay. Like the banter was more cringe than like swoony or like compelling at all. And it's kind of hard to feel committed to a plot when you know for sure, very confident that everything's gonna be fine, no one's gonna get hurt, and like the romance is never in danger of collapse. Like you just know, like, and that's not an issue in other romances. Just like everything's fine and you know it's going to be. And just some more dramatic tension would have been nice. And I will say that I think this still could be an extremely cute, like made for Netflix or Hulu rom-com, because I think the visuals of the witchy family doing like household tasks with magic and like the town and everything with some really like hot actors as like the leads would make up for everything else in like I think it could be such a cute rom-com movie or like miniseries. But as a book, it was just I just kept wanting it to be better. I was just like left wanting and never that into the book. There were probably like 60 pages that I actually read through at my normal fast reading pace when I'm enjoying what I'm reading, and everything else was just like, oh my god, when is something gonna happen? So I think I gave it like 3 stars. It was fine. It's well marketed, the most well marketed book I've ever seen in my whole life is what I'll say.
Truly, yeah. And so I read this month as well, and like the premise is cute, and I like I just wanted to like it so much. I really wanted to. And it just fell flat. And like there aren't really any stakes until the very end. And when I say the very end, it's like the last like 20 pages, maybe. And it's like, if we had established this earlier, maybe that would have been more interesting, more dramatic, more anything. And it ends so abruptly. Everything is resolved so quickly, and it just feels silly. The way that it resolved also feels like it comes out of nowhere. And so it was fine. I also gave it 3 stars. It's fine. If you're really into this idea, I feel like read it anyway. You're not going to have like a terrible time, but it's not going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just 3 stars even feels high, like when I talk about it, because I didn't really like it. It just wasn't terrible is more of the thing. And I feel like I reserved 2 stars for like it being actively bad, but it was just like very much lacking things. So I'm really hoping for more of these books, because obviously there was like a market for them. Like I want cute witchy rom-com all the time. So hopefully this will just mean that there will be more of them in the future that are better. So yes. Ex Hex by Erin Starling, 3 stars. Tawny, what did you read next?
Okay, so the first book I'm going to talk about is They Never Learn by Layne Fargo, which came out in 2020. I think it's Layne Fargo. It could be Lainey Fargo. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure. We're going to go with Layne. But this is a dual POV mystery thriller with some light revenge killing. So Scarlett Clark is an English professor at Gorman University and also a murderer, just like a full-on serial killer. Casual serial killer. Each school year, she identifies at least one awful dude, generally like rapists and abusers, and then she kills them. And sometimes it's staged as a suicide, sometimes it's staged as an accident, but she always gets away with it. And she's been doing this for a very long time. Our other POV is Carly. She's an incoming freshman at Gorman University. She's finally free of her abusive father, and starting college, she's really hoping to like fade into the background and be invisible. However, when Carly walks in on someone getting sexually assaulted, she becomes obsessed with making the attacker pay. So this is extremely fun. It's just big murder vibes. Big men are trash vibes. It's like just a dash of promising young woman, without being like exactly the same premise or anything, but it's just like kind of on that same wavelength. And I feel like we don't get enough like interesting female anti-heroes. I feel like that's very much a male dominated situation. And so I just ate this one up. It was campy, it was dark at times, and it was really fast paced. It was really good. And so there's a pretty big plot twist that I did not see coming. And so I need Katie to read this to determine how obvious it should have been to me. This is how I gauge how dumb I need to feel, whether or not Katie gets the plot twists immediately.
No, this is a point of pride. I work at it. This is
you are just simply very good at it.
No, like I've worked my whole life to be good at this thing. So it's not, you're not dumb at all. It's just, okay. You've lacked the 10,000 hours needed.
This is true. I need to be training myself better for this. But anyhow, you need to read it anyway.
Okay, that sounds so fun.
There's also lots of queer romance here, which was unexpected for me, but was very fun, very good. 4 stars for They Never Learn by Layne Fargo.
Ooh, there's beeping. There's Philly beeping. So
Oh
please,
no.
apologies to our listeners for the audio quality today. No, that sounds so fun. It sounds like kind of like what people were expecting Promising Young Woman to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
With actual murder. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's interesting. That's fun. Yeah, no, I'll add that to my list for sure. Because now that Halloween is over, it's time for me to actually read some murder books. Is the time
Yeah.
for that to happen. Yeah, I'm adding that for sure. This is a little Halloween adjacent. So this is the Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and like favorite book of the month probably. Yeah, yes. Yes. Um so this is like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory meets Mysterious Benedict Society, which is most, you probably don't know what that is. That's fine. But add sexual tension and family politics. Wow. So Avery Grams is a very smart, very brilliant, but destitute high school student whose like dad is MIA, whose mom died. She lives with her sister, but it's like not great conditions. And she has a plan for the future. She's gonna survive school, get good grades, get a scholarship, become an actuary, get the fuck out of there. She gonna go. But everything changes when a billionaire, Tobias Hawthorne, dies and leaves Avery pretty much all of his money. But Avery has never met Tobias Hawthorne, has not heard of Tobias, knows nothing. She's like, what? Who? Crazy. So she has to go to the Hawthorne house to go to the will reading, and she meets the family, and she learns that in order to actually receive her inheritance, Avery has to move into the Hawthorne house, where every room has like the old man's love of puzzles and riddles and codes. And unfortunately for Avery, the Hawthorne house is also lived in by the family that Tobias Hawthorne just like dispossessed of their expected fortune. And this includes the 4 grandsons who are like all very brilliant and smart, but like weirdos, like hot, dangerous weirdos, boys, and they grew up expecting that they would inherit these $1 billion. The heir apparent Grayson is convinced that Avery's like a con woman and wants to take her down. Jameson thinks that she's like his grandfather's last riddle to solve. And then there's like 2 other boys that are also important, but I don't remember their names right now. And then the plot thickens when Hawthorne includes mysterious clues and letters to his grandsons after the will. And is there more to the Hawthorne will than is apparent? And to find out why she was brought into this world of privilege and puzzles, she has to play the game herself. So it's like a big scavenger hunt vibes, and it's so fun. And I was right about so many things, and I love to see it. Personally, there's so many twists and turns. Like you really keep reading, because even every time like a twist happens or something's revealed, there are like 5 more questions after that. Like it just keeps compounding, and you're like, like, and nothing's like feels ridiculous within the book. Like if you just like say things separately, you're like, that's silly, but like within the context of the book, like, oh no, this all makes sense. And really like good character arcs. There's a little bit of romance, and like really good like dialogue and interactions between all of the characters, and it's like a very, very fun time. 5 out of 5 stars, A+ time. You gotta read it. There are 2 more books. One just came out, and the 3rd comes out next year, I think, and I'm excited to read those as well.
Muted, sorry. Yes, please read it. It's so good. I had such a fun time reading this. For like a pretty large ensemble cast of characters, I felt like the characters were all really well developed, like all very distinct from each other, which is great. And it like you just really root for Avery, and it's just it's such a fun time. I did not guess the twist that Katie did. But that is okay because I am a mere mortal. But yeah, I also gave it 5 stars. It's just like such a fun, quick, fast-paced read. Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, no, like really, really recommend. Especially if you love like puzzles and strategy. Like if you like Survivor, you're probably gonna like this just because it's kind of, I don't know, it feels like a Survivor game in a way, but they're not on an island. They're in a weird house. So it's a good time. Tawny, what did you read next?
Okay, so the next thing I read was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Okay, I actually think most of my books are like on theme for spooky season. Wow, just realizing this. Great news for us. Okay. So this came out this year by Ashley Winstead. And this is a mystery thriller that follows a group of 7 friends who met in college and are now returning for their 10-year reunion. So it's kind of in dual timelines with like flashbacks to them in college and then present day at the reunion. So one of these friends was murdered back in college, and another of these friends has been long accused of being the murderer. But now with everyone back together in one place, they're forced to like confront their secrets and try to find out which of them was actually the murderer. This is for sure my favorite mystery thriller of the year. This was really, really fun. So first of all, these characters are not particularly likable. But they are like generally sympathetic with like one exception. But I think that's something that's really like that's a balance that's difficult to strike, where it's like I don't necessarily like you, but like I understand sort of where you're coming from and why this is the way that it is. And so it like I felt invested in them, but not always rooting for them, which is a really interesting reading experience. There's also a really fun like very messed up romance in the book that I was very into. I wasn't expecting there to be any kind of decent romance, and there was, which I liked. It's a little bit chaotic, it's a little bit absurd, it's a little bit grim. And it sort of explores like the parts of ourselves that we hide from others, even those that we're closest to. And like, can you ever really know someone completely? And most of the rest of my notes are just like things that I compared this to as I was reading. So here we go. The first is a niche reference to a failed early aughts TV show called Reunion. It was on Fox. Um, and if anyone in the entire world is familiar, it is very similar to that. I also think that this is what Lucy Foley thinks that she's doing with like a group of friends forced into close proximity where one of them dies and one of them is the murderers kind of thing. But like this is so much better than The Guest List and The Hunting Party, which I thought both were just okay. So this is like the better version of that. And it's also a little bit like the grown-up version of One of Us is Lying. So overall, just like good times. My main critique is that, so this is an ensemble story, and it's really strange because there's just one primary POV character. We do get a couple of random chapters from other POVs, like as character specific things are getting revealed. So it's just like sort of a weird format, but it's not a huge deal, and it sort of preserves some of the mystery, knowing that like events are being filtered through one person's like perspective and assumptions and things like that. So overall, great time, highly recommend, 5 stars. It was great.
I was looking at my phone because I was like, oh, Libby tried to deliver this to me a couple of days ago, and I did not do it. So I just had to manage my hold so that I would redeliver as soon as possible.
Excellent.
Yes, because you had recommended this book to me already, and I really want to read it. It sounds so up my alley. I'm so excited to read it so soon. I have to read other books Tawny recommended to me?
I'm sorry, I recommend too many books to you, but I do think that you'll really like
No, I
this
will.
one.
Yes.
And like, okay, so similar to the Inheritance game, there's like it's not like what, well, there is a huge reveal, but it's not, you're not just working towards one huge reveal. There are a lot of much smaller reveals along the way. And like when it's finally revealed who the murderer is, it's not terribly shocking, but it's still like the circumstances are like really interesting and surprising. There's just like a lot of other stuff that gets revealed along the way that is exciting and surprising. So I think it's still worth it.
Yes, I'm very excited. Yeah, I think when you have like a bunch of smaller things that lead up to each other, it's often more successful because like it keeps being compelling throughout. So even if like, you know, the twist of who the murderer, like even if that's disappointing or just like not like what like not executed as perfectly, it doesn't matter as much because like so many other things happened. So
yeah,
I think
it's not like The Wives where there's just one
thing and
twist
it was dumb.
It's terrible.
So yeah, exactly. But yeah, very excited. So next up, I have swinging back into romance. We have Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. Evie Dunmore. Am I influenced by Survivor to say Evie now? Go Evie. But Bringing Down the Duke is like a very clever and fun historical romance. It follows Annabelle Archer, who is yet another brilliant but destitute woman. This one's 25 though, but she's living in 1880s England, and she has the opportunity to be one of the first women ever to attend Oxford, and she had to earn a scholarship that requires her to work with the suffragette movement, who are currently most focused on a law that would allow women to own property in their own name even after they get married. While she works with the suffragettes, she keeps butting heads with Sebastian Devereux, the cold and calculating Duke of Montgomery, who is like the Queen Victoria's number one guy, who is like steering like Britain's conservative politics, and he's like working to earn back his family land after like his dad lost it. So he's very determined to keep having their conservative party win, and so, you know, kind of anti the suffragette movement, then you would say. But they keep butting heads and they have an immediate attraction, which is tough. It's tough because Annabelle's then asked by the suffragette movement to convince him to support their mission. And hijinks ensue. This historical romance has everything. It has intellectual women insisting on walking somewhere in the cold. It has man showing woman library as flirting. It has haughty upper class man not understanding his words and actions being insults when they are. And shockingly steamy but like language appropriate sex for the era. And I really enjoyed all of those things. And then I want to say like the third act conflict was like actually very much warranted in this romance book. Like the stakes and the consequences were 100% believable. And like if things worked out or didn't work out, I could see both ways because there were like a lot of complicated sacrifices both characters had to make, and both characters grew a lot throughout the novel. And I found that all like super compelling, especially for a romance. And I really liked it. I think my like negatives was like sometimes the dialogue, especially by Sebastian, was like repetitive, and he was often like led with anger or just seemed like intentionally obtuse sometimes. But I still had an absolutely great time reading this book. There's a bunch of sequels, and I'm looking forward to reading them in the series. Really fun. It's marketed more as like a rom-com, but it's definitely more historical fiction where it's very much grounded in truth and in that reality. And I felt like I learned a lot about like late 19th century like suffragist movement and things like that. So I really recommend it. It was a really good time. I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, that's Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore.
So I read this last year and I did give it 3 stars, and I don't remember what specifically didn't work for me. We were doing a podcast then, so I have no notes related to my reading experience here. There must have been something that just didn't connect for me. I do remember that I did still enjoy it, but I didn't seek out any of the sequels. So I am looking forward to Katie reading the sequels and then letting me know if I should continue.
I am like a little like I want to read the sequels because I did really enjoy this one, but like since I now know the cast of characters, I'm like already not looking for like I don't care about the cast of characters that I know will be like the heroines, and like because it's gonna be the painter lady, I think is the second one. I don't really care about her, which is why I have not immediately picked it up. So there's something to that.
Remember that there was like a rakish dude who I think is one of the male love interests in the sequels. Is he?
Yeah, yes, because the younger brother of the Duke. Yes.
Okay, yeah. And I was maybe interested in, I don't know, but we'll see if either of us reads any of these other books.
I think I will. Not soon, but it will happen. I did really enjoy this though. I do not want that to downplay my recommendation. I do recommend this, especially if you like historical romance, especially if you like
definitely
Regency-ish this is after Regency, but like around that area romance. Like I think you would really enjoy this for sure. So yes, Tawny.
Okay, so the next book that I read was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, which came out in 2020. Okay, and then first up, I actually just want to define a couple of terms within the context of this book because it's not a thing that I was familiar with, and I want people to know what I'm talking about. So in this book, this is a Hex family. So the men in the family become brujos with the ability to guide spirits and ghosts into the afterlife. And the women in the family become brujas and they have healing magic. So this system is based entirely on gender, which becomes important because, okay, so this is about Yadriel. He is a trans teenager from a Latinx family. And he longs to prove to his family that he can be a real brujo. He has been like prevented from undergoing the initiation ceremony because he is trans, and they don't think that he would be blessed with the brujo powers. So he, when his cousin dies and no one is able to find his spirit to guide him into the afterlife, Yadriel takes it upon himself to try to summon his spirit as a means to prove himself. Things go wrong and he ends up summoning Julian instead. And Julian is known in Yadriel's school for being a bit of a troublemaker who always skips class. And it turns out that Julian has died under very suspicious circumstances, and together they have to try to solve his murder before releasing him into the afterlife. But also, what if they also all in love? What if that? This is a really great balance of like fun, lighthearted rom-com adventure and like heavier emotional topics. So Yadriel is sort of tolerated, but not necessarily accepted by his family for his true identity. He's not like shunned or hated or abused by his family, but they don't understand and they kind of ignore the situation. They mess up his pronouns. And it's not malicious, but it's extremely hurtful. And I think this is an important reality to explore. Even if your family isn't outwardly hateful or abusive, their dismissal can be very damaging and traumatic. And this also explores many, many aspects of being trans. I feel like the broader societal conversation surrounding transgender and non-binary folks is often centered around just pronouns. But this book explores things like having to deal with your dead name being printed in the school yearbook and like the struggle to find a comfortable binder and having to manage people's reactions when you're not fully like passing for your gender. And just the fact that the Spanish language and many other languages are inherently gendered, like even beyond pronouns, most of the words have gender. And so it's just like an interesting thing to explore. And all of this is done rather casually. It's like it's not info dumpy or anything like that. It's just presented in a very like nuanced way as the general day-to-day challenges that he has to face as a trans boy. And it's really, really beautifully done. And I felt like I learned from it, which is good. And I also want to emphasize that this book is not in any way about like trans trauma or trans pain. It is very much a contemporary YA rom-com mixed with a ghost story featuring a murder mystery. And it's just a fun time that gives a lot of space for like pain and tenderness. I also want to point out that the author Aiden Thomas is also trans and Latinx. So this is an own voices story, and so it feels really authentic. It's just a really good time, and I feel like it's really important, and it's a perfect fall read. I gave it 4 stars for Cemetery Voice by Aiden Thomas.
I've been meaning to read this for so long. I borrowed it from the library last fall, and I think I started it and I just never finished it. So yeah, I've been meaning to like pick it up and finish it because I keep hearing amazing things about it this whole time. It's definitely like I remember when I picked it up, I'm like, ooh, this feels like a Tawny book more than a Katie book. Was I remember feeling that. So
Yeah.
I do really want to read it eventually because everyone who's read it has loved it. I think just like because you were defining terms, like I remember those terms coming at you right out the gate immediately, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, and they don't get like explained
Yeah.
until you're like probably like a third of the way through the book and stuff, and so it's like you just kind of gotta try your best to
Yep.
know that it's coming eventually. But yeah, and like so for me, this is when I bought this several months ago, just like on like a Kindle daily deal or something like that. And I kept saying, oh, I'm going to save this for fall. I'm going to save this for fall. And I wasn't picking up. And then I'm so glad I did. I picked it up on the plane ride home from Arizona. And so, yeah, it's very good spooky fall time.
No, definitely want to read that. I'll have to put it back on my holds list. For sure. Okay, next I have Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. And I found this book through one of my favorite Instagram influencers, which is called Things I Bought and Liked. And all they do is post things that they bought and liked. And this book, she was like, best thriller I've ever read in my whole life. And I'm like, okay, you've never recommended a book to me before. I'm not gonna like fully trust you here. So, but I did pick it up. And it was very, very good. So this is about Marin, who is a middle-aged woman with the perfect life. She's very wealthy. She in fact owns a fancy coffee machine that you will hear about several times in the book. It's very notable to me how many times you read about this coffee machine. But despite that, she is married to a hot, charming husband, Derek. And she owns a chain of upscale hair salons, and she's like does hair of like a lot of B-list celebrities kind of thing. Derek runs his own company. They're admired in their community. They're a loving family. They have this beautiful home. And then their world falls apart the day that their son Sebastian is taken just before Christmas by a stranger in a Santa costume. And a year later, Marin's like barely herself. The FBI have given up like the search for her son. The publicity has completely faded, and she and her husband like barely speak to each other anymore. She goes to like a missing children's like support group, and that's pretty much all she's got. She's had a couple of suicide attempts, and everyone else has moved on, and she's still like, I can't, like my son's gone, like I can't, yeah. And like how the writer writes her grief is like very compelling and well done, I think. But she had hired a PI on her own to make sure that the search never ends. And about a year later, the PI finds something, and it's not her son, but it's that Derek, her husband, is having an affair with a younger woman named Kenzie. And this news sparks Marin back to life, back in action, because she lost her son. She can't lose her husband too. This is a problem Marin can fix. And I'm not going to talk about more than that because spoilers, but this is a very incredibly compelling thriller. The reader has the exact correct of information. And at first you read it thinking it's just one POV, but it's actually two POVs. And the way it's done is very extreme. It's so good. I think like the twist can be seen coming. I did not have the opportunity to announce to someone what I thought was going to happen. I did not take the time to do that, so I cannot say I was right. But I feel in my heart that if I had been made to guess, I would have been right. But that does not really matter to you, the listener. Just it's very fast moving, very compelling. I feel like the characters are so well written and really make sense. Like, and even this extremely privileged woman, you feel for her deeply because of like everything she's gone through, and it explores the whole like experience of having a missing child very well, I think, through main character and then the other characters in the support group. Highly recommend. I give it 4 stars. It's like a 4.5, really. I did really, really like it. I don't have like any negatives. I did not like love it, which is why it's not a 5. Like it felt wrong being in the 5 category with my very few 5-star reads. So 4.5. Highly recommend. You should read it. Good time. It's a Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier.
I'm excited to read this. I added this to my list after you finished it. It sounds really good. It sounds really upsetting. But it sounds like good. So I am I'm excited to be upset by this book. It's gonna be.
It's definitely not like if we had to make a Bookering Drafts top 10 most upsetting books draft, which maybe we should do.
We should do that.
It would not make it, I don't think. It would be in the honorable mention, but it's upsetting, but it's not a Colleen Hoover upsetting, is what I would say.
Okay.
I'd say the beginning is pretty upsetting, but it's not. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It just, we've read a lot of upsetting books this year, and I think it's just like normal upsetting. This is not like that other thriller I read, Pretty Girls, where I was like, I don't know if I could physically read another book by this author, so it's not like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So no, really recommend it. Up there with my thrillers of the year. And it was very grounded in reality too. Like, it was not a thriller where it's like, this could not happen. This is a thriller that was like, this could have happened. I would believe this series of events actually. So yes, definitely recommend. Tawny?
Okay. So my next book, shocking, is another gay ghost romance. It is
Tawny, you're not even the queer one.
I know.
What am I doing?
I'm sorry.
This is big Joanna Robinson and Kristen Russo vibes.
It really is. How Kristen just gets extremely hetero when she watches Fast and Furious.
The turns, tables.
Okay. So I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, which came out this year. And this is about Wallace Price, who is generally a bad dude. And he dies right at the start of this story. He's just like a big, unfeeling businessman kind of guy. And he's in a bit of denial until his ghost is picked up by a reaper at his funeral. And he's taken to an afterlife tea shop, which is run by a man named Hugo. Along with the ghost of Hugo's dead grandfather and the ghost of Hugo's dog, Apollo. So there he learns about afterlife bureaucracy and what happens to spirits who refuse to move on. And this is sort of like, this tea shop is kind of like the way station between like life and the beyond. And Hugo's job is to make the ghosts and the spirits more comfortable with the process of moving forward. And so this is nothing but wholesome vibes. Literally no bad times. I know that I said he dies right at the beginning, but he deserves it. And then it's nothing but good vibes. Like, you want to be cozy, you want to feel comforted, you want to feel reassured that you get to hang out with your dog in the afterlife. I recommend. So if you enjoyed House in the Cerulean Sea by this same author, I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't like this as well. He does this thing where he takes something very fantastical and like infuses it with like, and makes it just a little bit mundane. And I don't mean that as an insult, because the result is always like just a little bit dry and very whimsical. So it's just like a generally good, pleasant time. I will say there's not a ton of like plot or action. There's like a lot of self-discovery, self-reflection, and just like a lot of really tender interactions, a lot of found family, which is my Achilles heel. So yeah, it's a nice pleasant time. You're looking to feel good. So I gave 4 stars to Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune.
Yeah, I will eventually read this. It's kind of sounds like, not good placey, but good placey with the bureaucracy of the afterlife situation.
Yes.
Sounds like fun. Like, I'm imagining, I don't remember the actor's name, but he's the devil, I guess, who is like the businessman vibes in The Good Place, who is
yes.
I'm imagining him. Yes.
Yes, that is absolutely the correct vibe. Yes.
So that sounds like a very
on the
good
right
time.
track.
It sounds also like, not because TJ Klune does not write like Terry Pratchett, but it sounds like a Terry Pratchett-y concept. Which,
yes.
Yeah, so that sounds really fun, and I want to read it eventually. There's too many books.
There's too many. I honestly can't keep up. And that is a wild statement, because I read so much and I feel like I'm not keeping up. So
I'm definitely not keeping up.
What a time.
But it's because I choose to read books like this, which I didn't even dislike. Okay, I read To Sir with Love by Lauren Layne, which is it is You've Got Mail, but dating app. So you already know the whole, everything already, but let me tell you some more anyway. So Gracie Cooper is in her 30s, and she is running her late father's champagne shop in Manhattan, because it was his dying wish that someone in the family take over the champagne shop, and all of the other siblings in the family have already moved on to their passions. So Gracie could not go do her passion, which is art, and she wants to paint, but instead she owns a wine shop in Manhattan, because that sounds bad. She has like what her friends and family call like a Cinderella complex, where she's like, I want to meet like the love of my life and have the Frank Sinatra music swell and the autumn leaves in New York, and I want to have the meet cute and all the things. And everyone's like, you can't do that, because you gotta settle for real life, like that music swell and everything's not gonna happen. And she's like, nah. So she is trying out like dating apps and stuff, and she's recommended a dating app where the concept is that you do not have profile pictures. You just meet a username, and then you start chatting, and then you eventually meet up later. So she begins a romance where she just knows a screen name. They talk every day, and they start to fall in love. Very interesting concept, very unknown. Never experienced that before. And while this is happening, she finds out that the store is not doing great, and a giant corporation headed by a very hot, arrogant rich man named Sebastian Andrews is proposing a buyout to turn the store into a parking garage. But like Gracie's like, this is like my father's legacy. the family's counting on me. We don't like parking garages in Manhattan. So it's just, like very tough. She's like, I hate Sebastian, but I love this guy I'm texting over the secret dating app. Confusing. What could possibly, again, everyone knows. Anyways, she starts to slowly fall for Sebastian and for Sir, and dealing with the story. Everyone literally knows what happens. You know what happens. You know the end of the book. It's fine. This was like very cute. It was adorable. It was a little too sweet. It was like a saccharine sometimes, but it was still like a really good time. I read it in probably 2.5 hours, is what I'm gonna say. Like it was a very quick read. Um, I think unlike other rom-coms I've read that are overly saccharine, this one, like it's still like has compelling character arc. I think like the reliance on the you've got mail narrative like actually helps in a certain extent, because it's not its fault that what happens. You know what happens because it's a reference, so it's like playing with that reference more, and you can focus on other things to take away from it. And then the main character's character arc of like dealing with her family who've like unknowingly put this huge burden on her, and like her being able to like confront that and make changes in her life that so that she's happy, I think is very big. And like getting over some of like her pride to make the best decision for her is very good. I will say that she's described as this amazing artist, and she gets a very good situation at the end of the book for her art career. And it's like, by the descriptions of the art I have read, which is like pink martini glass with Manhattan skyline, is like, no, you would not have an art gallery but buy out all of your paintings. Actually, that's actually not what would happen for you. It's just no.
I have secondhand embarrassment.
So there's just moments like that you're like, no. But it was still like a good time. Like if you're looking for the quickest read and you like just want to read a cute rom-com and it's just like a fun time, you should read it. If you love You've Got Mail, you should read it. If you want a realistic romance with any grit, if you want one grit unit, you should not read this book. If you want 0 grit units, you can read this book. So that's my review. This is 3 stars to Sir with Love by Lauren Layne.
I feel like this is something that I am gonna like keep on the back burner for myself if I'm just looking for like a cute, quick rom-com, because you know what? I do love You've Got Mail. It's a good time. And I, sometimes you just want something like quick and cute, and I'm okay with that being enough sometimes. So probably not like soon.
It corrects some of the issues, like in You've Got Mail, when Tom Hanks knows the whole time and he's like being like mean about it. That doesn't really happen. And that's good. That's like nice. So that is improvement on it. And like I like the characters like Cinderella complex and everything. I think it's good, and it's a fun thing to explore. So definitely a fun read. Pick it up from the library. Don't buy it for $12 on Kindle. Don't do that. Definitely pick it up at the library. So, yep. Tawny, I do believe that was my last main book. Do you have one more?
I do have one more. Wow. This is my last main book. Wow. And it's also like, again, just like going out with a whisper, not a bang. And this is I read The Inheritance of Orquidea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I'm so sorry for my pronunciation of that whole thing. I'm real sorry. This is what I'm working with in my mouth. That this came out this year. It was a book of the month pick for me. I think a couple months ago. I don't remember which month, but this follows the Montoya family, and their lives have always been a little bit odd. Um, Oddest of all is the matriarch of the family, Orquidea Divina. One day, she just appeared in the Valley of Four Rivers, built her house, and never left it. Even after 5 husbands, several children, even more grandchildren, she does not leave the house, and she does not answer any questions about her past. Then one day, the family members all receive a summons from Orquidea that simply says, "The time is here. I'm dying. Come and collect your inheritance." When the family is gathered and receives several cryptic messages from Orquidea, she transforms into a tree and dies? Question mark. Yeah, and then 7 years later, her family is starting to realize that the odd events in their lives didn't stop with Orquidea's death, and that there may be a mysterious figure from her past who is out to harm them. So this is a really tough one to read because the writing it's beautiful. It's really well done. It's lush, it's atmospheric. This is a magical realism book, and it's just it's very lyrical and beautiful. But this moves at an absolutely glacial pace. The synopsis that is printed on the inside of the book jacket covers up to like the halfway mark of the book. That's how little is happening. The synopsis spans half the book, which is strange. There's just not a ton of propulsive action. On top of that, you would think that if this isn't a particularly plot-driven book, it's probably character-driven, but I had a hard time getting invested in the characters. This is told in dual timelines. One is in the present day with her family. We're following like 3 primary figures from her family. And then the other is her past, like flashbacks to her childhood in Ecuador through the events that brought her to Four Rivers. And usually in a multi-timeline situation, I tend to have a favorite, but I felt equally neutral about both. And it's just so weird. And it's a bummer because on paper, this sounds like something I would really love, but I just never fully got engaged. And I don't know if that's the fault of the book or if it just didn't quite work for me. I didn't connect for me. But like, for example, I was maybe like a quarter of the way through this book. And then I picked up Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and I read that in one night. So it wasn't like a reading slump or anything for me. It was specifically this book that I couldn't get into, and I didn't return to it until like a week later. So, and like my go-to comparison for this is the Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which I started last year and never actually finished because I wasn't into it. But this writing is similar in that it's just very beautiful and lyrical. But I couldn't get into the actual story. So if you did enjoy that, I do think that you would enjoy this one as well. But if something like that didn't work for you, I don't think this one will work for you either. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. It's just somewhere in that like murky middle ground for me because it's technically good, but my experience was just kind of lackluster. Yeah, for the inheritance of Orquidea Divina.
This was every once in a while, maybe one per episode, you talk about a book and it's like, you say, if you like these things and you don't like these things, you should not read this book. And this is one of those where it's like, Katie, do not read this book. Tawny is yelling. It's like the subtext of everything she's saying is like, Katie, you will just literally not read this book. It's not going to happen
Katie,
for you.
It's not for you.
Not a Katie book.
No.
Because you're like, because I was like, oh, well, if it's not plot driven, maybe it's character driven. You're like, it's not character driven. I'm like, okay. I got nothing here. And that's okay that sometimes beautifully written books aren't for us. I think I personally have a harder time appreciating like beautiful writing. Like I'll only notice it sometimes. Like I noticed it in times like with Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, for example, is like times where I noticed like some of
Yeah.
the writing is like very beautiful. But it was only because I also like deeply cared about the plot and the characters and everything. Um yeah, so I feel like that's just like a thing about writing that I don't notice. I like if the writing's bad, I will notice. I'll be like, this is terrible writing. You will hear me talk about that soon. But if it's good, I usually don't really have much to say about like this the writing style much. So interesting. Um People out there enjoy these things, and I'm happy for
Yeah,
you.
there are plenty of people who this book is for, and I hope that they find it. I hope that they
Yes,
find it and read it and
exactly.
love it. And maybe just not
You
me.
know, it's all good.
Yeah,
Tawny, we did the main section.
we
We
did
did
it.
it. Tawny, do you need a break? Because I'm kind of good.
I'm actually good too. Yeah,
That
I
felt
don't.
very fast. I have no idea how much time that took.
I also don't
Because there's
know.
not a ton. There's actually not a stop clock thingy on the Zoom, so I could not tell you how much time has elapsed. Approximately an hour. Wow.
Wow, we're flying through.
We're flying through. What happens when you're prepared? Crazy.
Wild.
Now that we're
Absolutely
doing
wild.
something that I will cut out, I will pour some more wine. Me drinking two different beverages constantly throughout the recording of this podcast.
Okay, also same. I am alternating here.
Yeah. And then me like pushing my microphone around, being like, no, you can see it. Now it's too far away. Oh no. And then me being like, oh, I can't get distracted because people will know if I'm distracted and not paying attention to Tawny. So yes, weird vibes. Weird vibes.
Weird.
I like
It's
it
an
though.
adjustment.
I like it
I
though.
do like it too. I do.
Yeah.
But it is an adjustment because yeah, I was like looking for Harriet and I was like, no one's gonna know
No,
what I'm doing. I just
I
look like
had
I'm not
like
paying
almost a
attention.
full conversation with Rosalind, but I was like, wait, no, I'm on camera. But wait, you have to see. Hi.
Rosalind, show your face. Oh my god.
All up this whole time. I just woke her up. I'm so sorry. But look at you.
What a good baby. Our first pod pet appearance right here.
Oh, I was gonna edit this out, but now I can't because you're here. Yes. It's been an outtake.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. You look beautiful. You look so cozy.
She does not look happy. She's like, why have I been awoken? No. Yes. Are you the most autumnal baby? You are. You're a pumpkin spice muffin.
That's you. She says no.
No. Hi. Yes. Oh. It's cat time.
It's always cat time.
Ma'am.
Our third co-host, Roz, is here.
Rosalind.
And she has thoughts.
She has thoughts. There have been like no cats in these books. Okay, there she goes. Goodbye. Okay. We're preparing. Wait, so we're doing the spoiler section now, right?
Yes.
That neither of us prepared for. Cool.
Even though we both said, look at what happens when we're both prepared, and we're just simply
pull up the Goodreads page for.
Yeah, that is what I have up in front.
Okay, you know what? Actually, so I didn't really actually have notes for To Start With Love, but I think that was my best segment because it was more off the cuff. So maybe I don't know. I'm not gonna let myself just not make notes, but I think maybe less notes. I don't know. Here's a fine line. Wait. No.
As Harry Styles will tell you.
Yes, I hear he will tell me that. Wait. Okay. As good as it. What if this segment is just like us sighing because we're like, oh my god. Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Book Ring Pod. Tawny, we never introduced ourselves at the beginning of the pod, I don't think. We didn't do the whole like I'm Katie and I'm Tawny thing.
We didn't.
I think most people know.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you know.
Okay, right? But actually, since this is our first like real YouTube video one, this is probably the one time where It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Anyways, hi, hello,
We can
welcome
put
back.
it in the description, maybe. I don't know.
Hi, welcome back. We didn't even say we're taking a break before. We didn't. We just cut off.
Oops.
Oops.
Things were going
Guys.
so well.
Anyways, welcome back from the unanticipated ad break with no ads. We're back for the section where we talk about a book with spoilers because we've both read it. So, Tawny, we both read As Good as Dead, the final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson.
And we have read this.
We have feelings. We have feelings about this.
We do.
If you have not read the series, you will stop listening soon because spoilers. Because not only are we gonna talk about the spoilers of the book, but it's the third book in a trilogy. It's the last book of the trilogy, so there's just like a lot to talk about. But just like a quick summary of the initial book, if you haven't read it, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson is about Pip, who is sophomore or junior in high school, working on her project. They have to do like a big project in this high school, and she decides, for reasons, to investigate the murder of someone,
of Andy Bell.
Of Andy Bell, because the person who was accused and arrested for it was her acquaintance, and she was like, he innocent. I know. Deep down,
like,
I know.
It doesn't add up quite. And
it's
so
like something sus. I gotta prove it wrong. And she starts a podcast about it. And when you investigate a murder and do a good job at investigating the murderer, maybe bad things happen. Who knows? But it's really good. If you like true crime podcasts, you will like this. If you like mystery thrillers, you will like this. And I think the fact that it's like YA-ish makes it like very like readable and enjoyable, but there are still extremely high stakes. Very good time. This is one of my favorite books of the year last year. So yeah, definitely.
I like to sell it to people as it's like Veronica Mars meets Serial, the podcast. I feel like that's sort of the vibe. It's still like dark and you're getting some like grim stuff, but it is YA, so like you said, it's just easily readable and quick. Wow, a pod pet,
a podcast pod, just a cat pod. Oh, are you gonna purr?
She likes this book.
Yeah, Rosalind. This is a Rosalind approved book. Hi. Okay, guys, I'm still here. I just got distracted. Hi.
By her beauty.
You're so good. Wow. But yes, no, really recommend it if you haven't read it yet. But that being said, we're now going to review the last book in the trilogy. So if you do not want to hear spoilers, stop listening now. Skip ahead. Do it. Okay, let's go. Tawny, this was the most stressful reading experience of my whole life.
It is very stressful. It's very upsetting, and you're not okay even one time throughout the process. So the thing is that Pip is not doing well when we start this book. At the end of the second book, there's a lot of trauma. The mystery in the second book, the villain is a really complex thing. It's a really and she witnesses some stuff that's really traumatic for her. So she is experiencing some PTSD. She's experiencing some anxiety and depression. And her doctor was like, no more meds for you. And she's like, oh, that sucks because I'm dealing with a lot.
This is one of my main complaints about this book is that a doctor was like, you have witnessed several murders. You have many people very mad and angry at you. Your dog was also murdered. There's a lot of shit happening to you. You can't have anxiety meds anymore. That's ridiculous to me. That's insane.
Wild.
I also really want to know what's happening here for me right now with we have a Barbara And we have a Rosalind, and this is like a lot. So,
Stars of the podcast. Where is my cat? I don't have a cat. I have a dog, but she's kind of a cat.
yes. But yeah, so she now has to like get her anxiety drugs illicitly, like Valium or whatever illicitly, and she starts to suspect that she's being stalked, like someone's leaving like dead birds on her driveway with little stick figures with like their heads are gone and everything, and she's starting to get like weird comments and tweets from the same like address all the time that's like, who will look for you when you go missing, and things like that. So that's scary, and of course
Really
like
terrifying.
so scary. And then the police officer obviously does not believe her. She starts investigating all of this stuff, when she finds a connection to the duct tape killer, the DT killer, which is the dumbest serial killer name in the whole world.
Worst name.
Worst
Terrible.
name. Worst name.
Terrible.
And she starts to investigate that because it turns out the person arrested for it, who everyone thought was guilty, like his interview was highly suspect, like lots of pressure by police to admit his wrongdoings. And through starting to investigate this, just to skip ahead, she discovers that the duct tape killer is Andy Bell's dad all along, and Andy Bell's dad is the stalker, and then he and the serial killer, and he kidnaps Pip and is gonna murder her, but then
like 50% of the way through the book, she is abducted by this man.
Abducted by the serial killer. And then she fights back, and not in self-defense, and a moment of like, I gotta end it, he can't keep murdering people, she kills him, and you're like, great, cool, that's fine, that's people do that, that's okay. You will now go call the police and tell them what happened and have like maybe like a minor manslaughter charge or whatever. No. She's like,
not our
Pip. I know, I'm gonna mess with the crime scene and frame the whole murder of the serial killer, Andy Bell's dad, on Max Hastings, the rapist from book 1.
And it's like, this is a wild choice because, like, okay, so she was in his trunk. She went through great pains to make sure that her DNA is all over his trunk. She was tied up in there. This is evidence of her being abducted. She's in a shed. Her whole head is duct taped. And there's all kinds of physical evidence of her having been restrained and duct taped in this shed. I don't think that there is anyone who would question that her life was in danger in this situation. And she's still like, I mean, okay, she's jaded because the police have always sucked. They're never getting it right. And she's like, well, no one's going to believe me. And this guy would have walked free if I didn't kill him. And so now I'm going to rope my boyfriend and all of my friends into helping me cover this up and frame this other guy for this murder. It's so stressful. It's so stressful. It's such a bad choice, but it's okay because it's like earned, like it's well established that she is in such a bad place mentally and emotionally. I like, it's dumb and it's terrible, and you're thinking it's dumb and it's terrible all the time, but it's like, it's not necessarily out of character because she's just been under duress for so long. And so it's, you know, it's, I don't know, it's upsetting.
It's upsetting, and just everything's upsetting because she does end up getting away with it, and you cheer for that, but it's also like, that's rough. You could have just gone to the police. Like, you could have just lied and said it was in self-defense. Like,
this is what I would have done. I would have said it was
technically wasn't. You can be like, hi, he's a serial killer.
There's all this evidence that I was abducted. He said he was going to kill me. So I
yes,
had to kill him to get away.
Just like and she is so like protective of her friends and everything, and in order to make sure that they're not thrown under the bus until Max Hastings is convicted of the murder of Andy Bell's dad, she like goes no contact with her boyfriend who loves her and cares for her so much, and her friends, and it's just like, this is not healthy for you, this is not healthy for them, it's very upsetting, I don't like it. And like the ending is just like so because like it's after Max Hastings is finally convicted, and it's like, hey, remember me? And I'm like, oh my god. And it's like a year and a half later. I'm like, Jesus Christ, no.
Hi, it's me, like, no. Your boyfriend. I helped you dispose of a body. I love you so much. Remember me? Robbie. A gem, Robbie. But yeah, it's terrible. It's not terrible. It's well done. It's really well done. Good book.
It's a good book. It's just like so. I really like where the author went with it, because there would be like, I feel like most authors would be like, oh, do I have a plucky female detective going to college? Let her do that in college. But no, obviously she's been to so much trauma with everything that's happened in the past two books, that like something like this is inevitable, or something like terrible will happen, and she has to get through it. And like it's really doing a good job exploring that trauma and like the PTSD from all of that experience, and like how that dramatically changes you as a human being. So character wise, writing wise, amazing. Was it a good time? No, it wasn't. I had a bad time.
Like the first is stressful, but it's fun. It is a great time through and through. This one, you're not having a good time. You're actively having a bad time the whole time. But it's good.
It was so, because I was reading this like by the pool in like a beautiful resort in the sun, and I was like, this is not the vibe. I can't take this right now emotionally. It was just like a lot, but like it was so good. Like it was a very satisfying end to the trilogy. I really like that it didn't turn into like murderer of the week, whatever each book, like I liked that.
I mean, and this is the thing that we were harping on last month with Court of Silver Flames, where what is it like when your characters are so traumatized and it is time for them to go to therapy and figure this out. And so that is all handled. It's all handled well.
We didn't like it. We did it.
Yeah. So read with caution, but especially if you have already read this series.
Yeah, you have to
pick this up. You gotta do the full arc. And like it does come, I do like that it comes full circle in terms of the title, like Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and then she becomes a murderer and has to cover it up. I think that is kind of a clever avenue to take, even though it's upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? And I also, because she could have chosen like a friend or someone that she covers up for, but I like that it's her. It's like her own stakes and everything.
Me too.
Yeah, no, so we did really like this one. We still had a lot of feelings about it though.
Yeah.
It was deeply upsetting.
4 stars from both of us, I think.
Yeah, it was just like 1 star for just pure, we were upset the whole time. Yeah.
You can only be under that kind of stress for so long, honestly.
It's pretty long, honestly. So
it is like,
oh my god. Also, I was half right, though there's wiggle room for me to be full right in the future, is what I would like to say. The police could be in on it. They could be, but I knew the dad was involved, so that's something.
She did.
Yes. So yes, Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. 4 stars, strong feelings. That was the spoiler section. Tawny, it is time for everyone's favorite segment. It's We Read Too Much. We read too
Wow.
much.
We did read too much.
Yeah, well, I read the correct amount actually. So
Oh, you don't have any for this
no,
segment.
I do.
Oh,
I
okay.
have one.
Oh, perfect.
So it's the
okay,
correct
you
amount.
did read the correct
So
amount.
I
didn't
have
you?
something for every section. So I will go first because I have a personal 1 minute and 30 seconds to talk about From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Trap. Okay, guys, listen. Tawny read this series in like July, June, and it was not a recommendation, but it was a but you have to read it, Katie. And I do this to her every month about something, so I have to do it. It is not good. It's listen, I gave it 4 stars. So it's not good, but it is. It's both I had a bad time and I had a great time. It's both of these things combined. This woman needs an editor. Desperately. Desperately. This author needs an editor. I don't know what she's doing. Poppy is pretty much a holy virgin, but she does not want to be. And she goes to go try to have sex or just experience life at a brothel. She kisses someone. Flash forward, he becomes her new bodyguard. And there's vampires. There's a dark one. There's vibes. There's romance. There's mysterious societies. There's murder. Is it good? No. Is it a good time? Kind of. Do I recommend it? I don't know. Is the second book good? Real? No, absolutely not. Do I still have to read the third one? Yeah. Do I still have to read the prequel? Yes, I do. I'm very upset that I've been brought into this universe. I'd like to complain a lot, and but now I at least can appreciate the poster I purchased for Tawny of Honeydew. So, From Blood and Ash, I gave it 4 stars.
I would like to issue a personal apology for dragging you kicking and screaming into this experience. It's mixed feelings. It's mixed feelings.
Yeah, it sure is. And the fact that these will be in my I read too much section next month is upsetting to me too, because did not get there in time. Tawny, I'm so excited for your actual read too much section.
So this is actually lower for me than normal, just because you and I had a lot of overlap this month, which worked out in my favor. So I have 4 books to cover in this segment. And I have a timer, and I'm gonna start now. Okay, so first up was Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina. This is a whodunit mystery about a wealthy couple who are murdered on Easter night, and their 3 adult children who are all suspects. This was fun, if very standard and formulaic. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's a solid mystery thriller that moves quite quickly. 3 stars. Next, I read Head Over Heels by Hannah Ortenstein. This is a gymnastics rom-com about a former gymnast who never made it to the Olympics after an injury, who is asked to coach a new Olympic hopeful alongside her longtime crush. Author very much wanted to write about gymnastics and not at all about romance. It's cute but weird. 3 stars. Then I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Listen to our September episode for Katie's actual analysis of this one. But really, what is Colleen Hoover lacing these books with that requires one to finish them in one sitting? It is weird but fun. 3.5 stars. Then I read The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This is an elemental magic system tied to the seasons. There's a witch school. There's a cute romance. There is a good cat. I gave this 4 stars. That's it. I did it. I did it with time to spare.
Wow. I like that yours is actually like a race, and mine is how long can I talk about this book? How much can I say? Am I suddenly actually doing a synopsis? Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Honestly, I think 90 seconds is maybe the perfect amount of time to spend talking about From Blood and Ash. So I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you, thank you. Folks, that's the end of our show. Was this sub 90 minutes? Was this a sub 90-minute pod?
Did we do it?
Did we do
it?
Harry,
we did it.
Oh my god.
Harry, Harriet has joined for the listening audience.
Harriet, and Barb's here. Look at
Barb. Look at your friend Barb. Hello. Why don't you want to hang out? She's got business elsewhere.
She has lots of business to do. She has things to see. She has murders to cover.
She does. She does.
Thank you all so much for listening and watching Bookering Pod. We have such a good time doing this every month. You can find us on Instagram at Bookering Pod, where we now do Tuesday, Thursday book reviews.
Who are we?
Content for you. Wow. It's content for you. We also have a Twitter with content.
We do.
What? Crazy. And that is, Tawny, what's the Twitter called?
I think it's just Bookering Pod. I think we're Bookering Pod everywhere.
One of them definitely has the in it or something. Ooh, no, it is Bookering Pod. It's at Bookering_pod. Amazing. And you can find us on our website, which is bookeringpod.com. And you can find me, Katie Zollner, at Cat Zollnerd on Instagram and on Goodreads. Tawny, where can people find you?
You can find me at Tawny Waterman everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads.
Amazing. Let us know if you liked the show. Subscribe.
Do it.
Like the video. Comment the video. I don't know. You have so many options on how to interact with us now.
Yeah.
Quite overwhelming.
Feedback. Be nice to us.
Only positive feedback, thank you. Yes.
But gently worded constructive criticism is also welcome. Gently worded.
Gently worded. Like, honestly, if you could include like stickers in it, that would be nice.
Yeah, we're really fragile.
Yes. A big emotional energy from us. But thank you so much. We're excited to come to you in November with our November book time. And maybe there will be a bonus Halloween episode, or maybe that will have already happened. Who knows? Who knows when the mysterious editor will do her editing? No one could know. But thanks so much, and have a good reading time.
Do it. Bye.